brothers thriving in Hollywood there.
No, it's amazing. It's to be included in this type of space and what they're doing, and to be recognized, not just included, but to walk away. But Trayvon Free's one of the best dudes in the game.
I was going to say, great guy,
one
talented.
of the best dudes in the game. So I'm glad they paired with him and they can pull this off.
This is a big accomplishment. You know, Kobe started it, now these guys are doing it. Everybody's getting involved. So, Richard, when we doing something, man, we're going to collab and do something, man. Let's talk about this right now.
When's the Oscar film coming from the two of you?
No. You know,
I wouldn't want to know what your short
I'm
film
still
would
trying to
be
catch
rated.
my guy Jalen Rose in this space. I'm still trying to catch up to Jalen in this space.
Hey,
I can't try and do other things.
Young fella, take a different path, man. He's going that way. Let's go our own path, man. Let's do something.
Honestly, I'll follow you anywhere, Big.
Okay.
See, there we go.
I'll follow you anywhere.
Boom. Welcome to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols. And, you know, at least for the next hour, we're going to still have them before they go on to their Oscar-winning activities.
Yes.
Two NBA champs, Richard Jefferson, Robert Horry. They made a combined 11 trips to the NBA Finals, and most of them were
here.
But still, very impressive on both counts. Coming up, Stephen A. Smith is stopping by. He's going to tell us whether he thinks the Knicks' 9-game winning streak is something, nothing, or everything. Spoiler alert, it's everything. But first, when we're talking about the big traditional NBA rivalries, Grizzlies-Blazers, it's not exactly Celtics-Lakers, right? Still, there's some bad blood there, just the same. Remember back in 2015 when Portland broke Mike Conley's face? Yeah, it was all blue and black and puffy after that. It was gross. Or you can just forward to last summer in the bubble when the teams matched up in the NBA's first ever play-in game, an affair that turned into an all-out war by the fourth quarter. Remember CJ McCollum's closing kick, scoring over John Morant, and screaming to the 100 or so of us who were in the building that night, quote, "He can't guard me." Well, actually, that's not a direct quote because there was also a significant curse word thrown in there, but to get the point.
What'd they say?
I'm going to leave that to your imagination, Richard Jefferson. Bottom line, there is no love lost between the two teams, which means we've seen plenty of spice as they faced each other twice in the past 3 days. There was Friday's Memphis win, which came down to the final minute, included a little back and forth shove sort of elbow thing between Dame Lillard and Dillon Brooks. Lillard later said this, quote, "I told Dillon Brooks, man, you're going to play physical and play how you're going to play, but don't run up to me and do stuff like that. It's going to go one of two ways, and we don't want it to go in that other direction." Okay, message received. And then there was yesterday's game, which, John Morant, very good at the basketball, people. Watch this play.
Like, once Chris Paul decides to call it a day, it's going to be Ja.
Handles are ridiculous. And then the dunks came. Take a look at this nice one in the third quarter.
Ooh.
Mr. Dunker there.
He just don't care about it.
He did a double pump, and then he also grabbed the ball and hit it on the backboard. If
The
that's
game
not
was
some
close
90s
down the stretch.
basketball-
Memphis did seal it. And afterward, well, this time it was Brooks who did the talking.
I don't think they thought that, we were remembering in the bubble. I pulled right back. I talked the whole game. They don't like that. I'm physical. I don't think a lot of guys in the league, see this type of defense. So, I'm bringing it every single night, and I'm trying to rise to the occasion.
They don't think we remembered the bubble. Fantastic. That attitude from Dillon is pretty representative of the entire Grizzlies team right now. The swagger, the hustle, the desire to prove themselves in a season that a lot of folks around the league thought Memphis might be better off tanking. After all, they had Jaren Jackson Jr. out most of the year. He's now finally back. Ja missed 8 games with an ankle injury. Jonas Valanciunas missed a chunk of time due to COVID protocols. And yet, here we are, only a few weeks out from the playoffs, and Memphis is sitting at that 8th spot in the Western Conference standings, just hundreds of percentage points back from, Portland, which is fascinating and not what we expected, not after Dame so brilliantly carried that team in the first half of the season. But it's possible the amount of work that took has caught up with the Blazers. Now, they've lost 5 straight, 9 of their last 11, and while they will have the chance to put some more air between them and Memphis on Wednesday when the two teams face off yet again, it's certainly possible the standings hold on as is at the end of the season. Because yes, gentlemen, if so, it would be Grizzlies-Blazers and right back in the West primary play-in game. And from what we've seen so far, it could be a whole lot of fun. No, this rivalry is not the second coming of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. But as long as no one else breaks their face, I say, bring it on. Apparently you feel the same way. Robert, what about you? How dangerous does Ja Morant make the Grizzlies in a play-in scenario? What are you doing?
Oh, you know what?
Question I ask you pretty much every day.
Ja is that guy that has no fear. When you talk about no fear, he has no fear. He cares about no one. Think about it. As a rookie, he went at James Harden. He doesn't care. And when you got that kind of no fear, you're going to go out and just play basketball like you want to play, regardless if you're going up against Larry Bird, Magic Johnson,
Dame Lillard, James Harden.
Any of the greats. So I like the way this guy plays. He plays with the love and the passion that you want every player in this game to play with.
Now look, I got to set the table a little bit here for a second. One, when I talk about Chris Paul being like a point guard, I look at him as like, I'm going to run the team. I'm going to do the majority of the assists. I'm going to do that. So all you Steph Curry stands, don't start hitting me with Steph. Steph is he's a hybrid two guard, a different type. So as far as setting up his teammates, Dillon Brooks, I love it.
Right?
I love it. Don't ever change. You're right. But when you're playing him again, you get the MJ. It's great to see guys, the team. It's easy to talk trash when you're up a little bit, when the game's tight. Now, if you want to keep that energy starting the game, and I'm not saying that Dillon Brooks is going to change, but that's what makes it fun to watch. It's like, oh, you say these things in the game, then you say in post game, you guys win, you guys earned it. But now the fun part is that next game. Coming up. That's the game to watch.
Because there's certain guys you don't say that to, and Dame Lillard is one of the top 5 guys. You don't say that
and so that's why I have respect for Dillon Brooks. I have respect for Dillon to be like, hey, I said it, I'll say it again, and we play him in 2 days.
Yep.
And then we get to the MJ. And it's just true. It's just true to see if that's going to be the case. I'm not saying Dame's going to go for 70. I'm not saying Dillon Brooks is going to shy away. But ultimately, the real game comes this next one. They're just like in the postseason. That's what makes these kind of back-to-back games a little bit more fun.
And Damian pointed out after yesterday's game, he said, I'm not a huge trash talker. And that is true, by the way. He just backs it up with his actions, and we've seen the this. So Wednesday's game, and then also if this ends up being the play-in for the West for the 7-8 spot, I think that's going to be awesome. It's really fun to see those teams go at it. Let's move over to Kevin Durant because he returned to the Nets lineup yesterday after missing 3 games with that bruised left thigh. KD came off the bench, which was kind of interesting. 33 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals in 28 minutes. He shot 12-21 from the field, 7 for 8 from the foul line. After the game, he talked about the motivation for coming off the bench. It's only the 3rd time in his career he's ever done it. Take a listen.
Deal with it and adapt to the situation. Coach asked me today if I wanted to start or come off the bench, and I felt like it would be a bigger challenge for me to focus in and lock in if I came off the bench. So I just wanted to see how that worked. And if I would have shot bad, I probably would have been pissed that I came off the bench, but I was able to knock down some shots. And but it was a solid exercise for me to ease back into the swing of things.
I think this whole construction is so interesting because as someone who's a sideline reporter for a lot of games, I will ask coaches when guys have a minutes restriction, why don't you shift it more toward the end of the game? Don't you want them on the court at the end when it matters? And Steve Nash has really worked with Kevin a couple times now to come off the bench. Sean Marks, the GM, told me that Steve actually kind of picked that up from watching so much European soccer, that when guys are on a minutes restriction, they play them more toward the end. But some coaches, they're reluctant to do it because they feel like guys have this pregame routine. They warm up and they're used to going at a certain time. So, Richard, what do you think the Nets should do with Kevin Durant and his workload the rest of this season? They got 11 games left.
No, I'll say this. I did the first game that he came back after missing 25 games. And so we're talking during the game. And you're like, oh, he'll probably come in at the 6-minute mark. Or he'll probably start the second quarter.
Nope.
All of a sudden, it was like halfway through the second quarter. I was like, maybe he had something happen ultimately, I like what they're doing because so many times we see it where a guy all of a sudden can't play in the last 8 minutes of a game. And you're like, and you see coaches look at the training staff back in the day when we played, it would be like, sit down.
Right.
Now the training staff are walking up and saying, get him out of the game.
Right.
It's a very different setup, but I think they're doing what's right. As long as Kevin Durant is happy, I actually kind of like it. You make them available for the second half, latter part. I think some of the science was more of a guy does this long warm up.
Right.
Don't have him sit down for
cold.
20 minutes, especially if it's soft tissue injury like a hamstring, and then try and gear up in a game that's already moving. So, but I like it. I think they're doing a great job.
I think they're doing a fantastic job with the players nowadays because the science behind it is so much better when we play. And when I was listening to KD, you know how he says exercise. I'm like, dude, exercise. He called this an exercise, man. Like, this is light work for him, man.
Light work for Kevin Durant.
That's what you have to pick up on. And Kevin Durant is one of these athletes we don't talk about, but he's one of the best players that ever played this game.
Ever.
And when he steps on the court, he makes it look so effortless and so easy. So when you sit back, you know, we both played the 3 spot.
Yeah.
He just makes you jealous, man. Like, really, dude?
Yeah.
This is exercise to you. It's like you going out there, you scoring 33 off the bench because you wanted to challenge yourself. Okay, next time, do what Kobe Bryant do. Go out and shoot left-handed. Challenge yourself that way.
Well, and look, this is what made Steph and Clay and him so dangerous.
Yes.
Is that Kevin Durant could be Steph Curry. He could, if he just wanted to only shoot threes and try and knock down 10 threes multiple times, but he has so many more facets. That's how that's Steph's weapon of choice. That is his best weapon. That's his go-to. Same with Clay. That three-point line is their go-to weapon. Where Kevin Durant, he has the ability to go and finish, go and dunk on you, go and do so many other things.
But don't forget, he's 7 feet tall and he
He's
can
7
get his
feet
shot
tall.
off over
At any point in
anybody
time.
Yeah,
all
that's what
the time.
separates him from everybody, because if you look at today's game, it's 3 or nothing. He's a 3, he's a dunk, he's a mid-range,
He does
he's a everything. So,
Everything.
Yeah.
And again, 33 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals in 28 minutes. Light work, exercise.
Exercise.
57%. Like,
And there we go. All right, thank you guys for the front here. Coming up, we're going to discuss how concerned Lakers fans should be.